Hello बच्चों. Now this is what your refraction of light through prism that you all know now. This is forward incident ray. This is what your forward incident ray and this is what your backward emergent ray. This angle is called what? Delta. Now you can see there are so many angles. This is angle of prism, angle of deviation, angle of emergent. This is angle of incident. These are the angle of refractions, isn't it? Now there are some relation between these two angles. We don't have proof of it, but you should know that what are that proofs. What are the mathematical expression? The first expression is A, that is angle of prism. मतलब वो एंगल इक्विलैटरल प्रिज्म है मान लो, या फिर राइट एंगल ट्रायंगल है प्रिज्म में, या फिर इक्विलैटरल ट्रायंगल है 60-60-60 का, isn't it? It can be of 30-60-90 also. So this angle of prism will be always equal to the sum of these two angle of refraction, that is R1 plus R2. We will have a we will have an experimental verification of this in our labs. And second expression is A plus delta. What is A? Angle of prism. Suppose ये equilateral triangle है, so it will be 60. An angle of deviation. So basically this will be the experiment on the piece of paper. We will take one prism. You must be knowing that when we pass the ray of light, how will you pass the ray of light? We'll consider two pins, isn't it? Remember. So we are going to perform that experiment. So A plus delta is equal to I plus E. Is equal to what? I plus E. So these are the two mathematical verifications that we will see in terms of refraction of light through prism in our physics lab. But meanwhile you just understand. Now next topic is on what factor this angle of deviation depends. On what factors this angle of deviation depends, that we are going to see. Okay? That is the most important part of the chapter or this topic. The first factor, now I am not going to draw that diagram now, you all understood. First one is angle of prism. First one is what? Angle of prism. There is a relation between this angle of prism and angle of deviation. As angle of deviation will increase, angle of deviation will also increase. मान लो फिर angle of prism is 30. So angle of deviation will be less than that of angle of prism is 60. If angle of prism is 90, ठीक है? So in that case, now you might be thinking, sir, there are three angles. Angle of prism will be the angle between two refracting edges. ठीक है? So if angle of prism increases, angle of deviation also increases. That is first factor. The second factor is the medium, or you can say material, that is refractive index. That is what? Refractive index. जिसका refractive index ज्यादा होगा उसका angle of deviation भी ज्यादा होगा. Always remember, if the refractive index is more of the material, then the angle of deviation also more. So in short, refractive index increases, angle of deviation also increases. ठीक है? Now go for third factor. I'll go for what? Third factor. That is color or wavelength. That is what? Color or wavelength. But जो simple logic है, this is what your prism. Logically we will try to understand. ठीक है? This is your red light and this is your violet. ठीक है? Now, what do you think? Which ray will bend more? So this violet will bend more, isn't it? This is your violet, so it will bend more. Whereas red is not going to bend that much. Why this is so? Because it has a high speed. So if I'll form an angle over here, so don't you think this angle will be more? Why? Because violet ज़्यादा bend हुआ है नीचे, isn't it? So the chances of forming angle of deviation for violet will be more. I hope so you understood this. So in short, as the अभी वायलेट और रेड में किसकी वेवलेंथ ज्यादा है? रेड की, isn't it? और वायलेट की क्या है? लेस है. बट द रिफ्रैक्टिव इंडेक्स ऑफ वायलेट इज मोर. द रिफ्रैक्टिव इंडेक्स ऑफ वायलेट इज मोर देन दैट ऑफ रिफ्रैक्टिव इंडेक्स ऑफ रेड. अभी ये भी आपको समझाना पड़ेगा. व्हाट डू मीन बाय रिफ्रैक्टिव इंडेक्स ऑफ वायलेट इज मोर? व्हाई इट इज मोर? I'll tell you. See, this is what your air medium, this is what your glass medium. ठीक है? So ये वायलेट लाइट है. This is your normal, it will pass through the second medium. तो यहाँ पे speed of violet light will be very less, isn't it? So if the speed of violet light is very less, so if this V is less, so don't you think refractive index will be more, isn't it? But for red, this speed is what? More. So if the value of the V, what do you mean by V? The speed of light in given medium, isn't it? If the value of V is more, then don't you think refractive index will be less? ठीक है? इसका मतलब जिसका रिफ्रैक्टिव इंडेक्स ज्यादा होगा उसका एंगल ऑफ डेविएशन भी ज्यादा होगा. दैट मीन्स एंगल ऑफ डेविएशन इज मोर फॉर व्हाट? एंगल ऑफ डेविएशन इज मोर फॉर व्हाट? Violet light. So inversely proportional derivation हुआ. In fact, wavelength of violet is what? Very less, but angle of deviation for it was more. So if I consider in terms of wavelength, so wavelength increases, angle of deviation decreases. ठीक है? For red angle of deviation will be less. Why this is so? Because wavelength of ray is more. So these are three factors on which the refraction of light through prism depends. One more factor is remaining, that is angle of incident. That is what? Angle of incident, and it's very interesting that we are going to see now in detail. Now listen. आप सबको तीनों क्लियर हुए? सिंपल है. First one, angle of prism increases, angle of deviation also increases. Wavelength is inversely proportional. Sorry, deviation is inversely proportional to what? Deviation is inversely proportional to what? Wavelength. More the wavelength, less the deviation. And third one, deviation is directly proportional to what? Refractive index. More the refractive index, more the deviation. That is for material. Now the last factor is angle of incident. What? Angle of incident. It's very interesting. So what happens, do you know, in case of angle of incident and angle of deviation, initially angle of incident increases, but angle of deviation decreases. Then it comes to its minimum deviation. Then both again increases. Both? Incident and deviation. Again I am repeating. Initially angle of incident increases, angle of deviation decrease hota hai initially. But after that it comes to its minimum deviation. And when it comes to its minimum deviation, then that ray, refracted ray, becomes parallel to the base of the prism. And after that both what? Increases. I believe आपको नहीं समझा. So for that, in your textbook, figure number 4.25 Figure number 4.25. There are three diagrams given of prism. Now, if you study angle of incident and angle of deviation, you will come to know the angle of incident is initially 30, then 48, and then you have 72, I believe. There are three angle of incident. You just go through the diagram. In your textbook it is given C, B and A. ऐसा आपको देखना पड़ेगा. So it is 30, 48 and what? 72. Further, the angle of deviation is also given. You have to see it very properly. So initially angle of deviation is 47. ठीक है. Then it is 36. Then it is 43. बच्चों आपको क्या समझ रहा है? आपको समझ रहा होगा. Angle of incident क्या हो रहा है? Increase हो रहा है. But angle of deviation क्या हुआ? Decrease. It's minimum deviation. It's what? Minimum deviation. Again it's what? Increases. So it can be represented in diagram like this. So this is deviation and this is what? Angle of incident. Suppose I want to put up the values on axis. So initially angle of incident less रहेगा, लेकिन angle of deviation ज्यादा रहेगा. देखो angle of incident is less, but angle of deviation is what? Maximum. Then it comes to its minimum deviation. This minimum deviation, like this position, ठीक है? And after that both what? Increases. I hope so आपको समझ रहा है. अगर मैं इस position को A बोलूं, so this is what my position A. If I consider this as B, so this is what my B. And if I consider this C, so somewhere this will be what? C. I just want to convey you बच्चों, जैसे जैसे angle of incident बढ़ेगा, initially angle of deviation will decrease. It will come to its minimum deviation, and after that both will increase. But when it will come to its minimum deviation, then the ray will be parallel. Which ray? Refracted ray. You can go through your B figure from your textbook. ठीक है? This is your incident ray. This is your refracted ray. And this is your emergent ray. Now these two rays are parallel. Why? Because here we have minimum deviation. How much? 36 degree. Okay? So if you study the diagrams properly, the way I have explained you, the things will be easy. So we have seen the four factors. What are the four factors? First one, angle of prism. Second is angle of incident. Third one is color or wavelength of light. And last is refractive index of the medium. I hope so it's very clear. We will end up over here. Thank you very much.